The hospital room was quiet except for the steady rhythm of the heart monitor. Ethan hadn't moved in hours. His fingers were wrapped around hers when her eyelashes finally fluttered. For a second, he stopped breathing. He whispered. Slowly, her eyes opened, confused, disoriented, alive. Relief hit him so hard his vision blurred. You're okay, he breathed, a broken smile forming. She stared at him. Too long. Her brows pulled together. Who are you? The world didn't spin. It shattered. 2 weeks earlier, on a rainy Thursday evening, they had been standing in the kitchen. The argument hadn't been explosive. It had been worse. Quiet, sharp, tired. You never really hear any more, Maya had said, folding her arms. I'm doing this for us, Ethan replied, exhausted. For us? Or for your promotion? He didn't answer fast enough. Silence thickened. She grabbed her keys. I just need air. The rain was heavier than she expected. Headlights blurred through the windshield. A horn, a flash, metal crushing, darkness. The next morning, in the hospital, the doctor explained carefully. Retrograde amnesia, he said. Her brain likely shut down certain memories to protect itself. What does she remember? Ethan asked, his voice unsteady. Childhood, family, high school. High school. Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. Her memory stopped at 17, before college, before their first date, before their wedding, before him. Later that afternoon, when her parents left the room, she studied him carefully. They said, you're my husband. Yes. She blinked. I don't remember getting married. He swallowed. I know. When he reached for her hand again, she flinched. Please don't. He pulled back immediately. I'm sorry. And he meant it. Not just for touching her, for losing her while she was still alive. The following day, when she was discharged, Ethan drove her home. She looked out the window like a tourist in her own life. When they arrived, she hesitated at the door. This is my house? Our house, he corrected gently. Inside, she walked slowly through the living room. Photos lined the walls. One stopped her. A wedding picture. She touched the glass. She looks happy. You were. She studied his face in the photo. He looks in love. He didn't answer, because he still was. That evening, while sitting on the couch, she asked the question he feared. Is Ryan still around? Ethan's chest tightened. Yes. Her expression shifted, softened. I need to see him. The words felt like another collision, but he nodded. If that's what you need. Because love doesn't cage, even when it hurts. 2 days later, in the late afternoon, she met Ryan for coffee. Ethan didn't accompany her. He waited at home, alone. Ryan smiled the way he always had, confident, familiar. You look the same, he said. I feel very different, she replied. He laughed. You always overthink. The phrase stirred something faint in her chest, not warmth, recognition. As they talked, she noticed he interrupted her often, corrected her details, dismissed her confusion. You'll remember eventually, he said casually. Don't stress about it. She studied him carefully. Do you remember why we broke up? Ryan leaned back. You got dramatic. She blinked. Dramatic? You were too emotional. Always needed reassurance. Something inside her shifted. You didn't like when I spent time with my friends, she said slowly. You were mine, he replied with a shrug. Mine. The word didn't feel romantic. It felt heavy, possessive. Later that evening, when she stepped outside, Ethan's car was already waiting across the street. He stepped out when he saw her, not tense, not interrogating, just present. How was it, he asked gently. She studied his face. Concern, patience, no control. It was clarifying. On the drive home, he didn't ask for details. Halfway there, she noticed a folded blanket in the back seat. In case you felt cold, he said simply. She hadn't mentioned that rain always made her cold, but he remembered. The next morning, sunlight filled the kitchen. Ethan was already awake, making breakfast. He moved quietly, efficiently. When she entered, he handed her coffee. 2 sugars. No stirring. She froze slightly. That's how I like it. I know. She looked at him differently, not as a stranger, but as someone observing. Later that afternoon, while cooking, she accidentally cut her finger. Before she reacted, he was beside her, holding her hand gently, cleaning the wound carefully, blowing softly over the sting without thinking. She stared at him. You've done that before. Yes. Her heart tightened. I don't remember loving you. His jaw flexed slightly. I know. Silence lingered. But I feel safe with you, she admitted quietly. That's enough, he replied. 2 days later, Ryan called again. You've been distant, he said. I've been thinking. You're overanalyzing. There it was again. Dismissal. She felt it clearly now. I don't think I want to see you again. A pause. Is this because of him? No, she said calmly. It's because of me. She ended the call. For the first time, she felt certainty instead of nostalgia. That evening, as the sun began to set, she found a journal in the closet. Her handwriting, dated 2 years after their wedding. She sat on the floor and began reading. Today he came home exhausted and still cooked dinner because I had a headache. Another page. We argued, but he apologized first even though I was wrong. Another. I didn't marry him because I needed him. I married him because he was kind. Tears blurred the ink. Ethan found her there minutes later. You kept this, she whispered. You asked me to. Why? Because you said love isn't about memory. It's about choice. She looked up slowly. I wrote that. You did. The following evening, they sat on the balcony as dusk painted the sky gold. She looked at him carefully. Were we happy? We were working on it, he said honestly. Before the accident, were we okay? We were tired, he admitted. But we weren't broken. She breathed deeply. At 17, I thought intensity meant love. And now, I think peace does. Silence settled between them. Gentle, not heavy. I don't remember falling in love with you, she said softly. His heart pounded painfully. But I admire you. That word meant more than passion. I see how patient you are when you're hurt. I see how you don't pressure me when you're afraid. I see how you let him choose. Her eyes filled. Ryan loved who I was at 17. She stepped closer. You love who I am now. The air shifted. Fragile. Hopeful. If I choose you again, she whispered. Will you promise not to rush me? I'll choose you every day, he said quietly. Even if you never remember. That was the moment. Not memory returning, but trust forming. She reached for his hand, not out of obligation, out of desire. Slowly, she leaned in, and when she kissed him, it wasn't about the past. It wasn't nostalgia. It was recognition of patience, of safety, of love that doesn't control. She didn't remember their love story, but she chose the man who proved it to her again. And this time, she chose him twice. 1 year later, the air smelled like spring. Maya walked beside Ethan through the same park where they had once sat in silence, trying to understand who they were to each other. Now, they walked without hesitation. Her hand fit naturally into his, not because memory returned, but because love had. The past year hadn't been dramatic. It had been steady. Morning coffees, late-night conversations, laughter that came easier each week. She never regained her old memories. Not the wedding, not the honeymoon, not the early years, but she built new ones. And this time, she saw everything clearly. Ethan wasn't just patient in crisis. He was patient in normal days. He noticed when she was tired. He learned again how she liked her eggs. He asked before assuming. He listened before responding. He loved without fear of losing. As they reached the center of the park, he slowed. She noticed. What is it? She asked softly. He took a breath. 1 year ago, I thought I'd lost you forever. Her fingers tightened slightly around his. I didn't lose you, she said. You just had to meet me again. He smiled faintly, and I would do it 1,000 times. There was something different in his eyes. Nervousness, vulnerability. He stopped walking, reached into his coat pocket. Her heart skipped. Ethan. He got down on one knee, in the same park, under the same trees. But this time, there was no history behind it. Only choice. I asked you once, he said softly, holding out a ring, and you said yes. Tears filled her eyes instantly. You don't remember that moment. She shook her head gently. No, but I do. His voice wavered slightly. And I remember the way you looked at me like I was home. A breath. So I'm asking you again. Not out of obligation, not out of history, but because you chose me when you didn't have to. He swallowed. Maya, will you marry me again? The world felt still. Her chest rose and fell slowly. 1 year ago, she hadn't known his name. Now, she knew his heart. She stepped closer. Yes, she whispered. Then stronger. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, not restoring something old, beginning something new. 2 months later, at sunset, they stood in front of close friends and family. A small ceremony, simple, intentional, a renewal of vows, but it felt like a first wedding. When it was her turn to speak, she held his hands gently. There were no old memories behind her words, only lived experience. 1 year ago, she began softly. I woke up and didn't know the man standing beside my hospital bed. A quiet wave moved through the guests. I didn't remember loving you. Her eyes never left his. I didn't remember choosing you. Tears rolled freely now, but you chose me anyway. His breathing grew uneven. You didn't rush me. You didn't pressure me. You didn't try to make me feel guilty. She smiled through tears. You loved me in a way that made me fall in love with you all over again. A pause, and this time, I saw everything. She squeezed his hands. I saw your patience, your kindness, your strength. I saw the way you love without controlling. Her voice softened. I don't remember the girl who married you the first time. A tear slipped down his cheek, but I know the woman standing here now. She took a slow breath, and she chooses you. Silence, sacred. And there's one more thing, she whispered, a small smile breaking through. He frowned slightly, confused. She reached for his hand and placed it gently against her stomach. I won't remember the day we found out the first time. His eyes widened slowly, but I will remember this one. The guests gasped softly. Emotion rippled through the space. I'm pregnant, she said, tears shining. For a moment he couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. All the nights, he had chosen patience. All the mornings, he had chosen love. All the days, he had chosen her without guarantee. And now this. He pressed his forehead against hers, overwhelmed. You chose me twice, he whispered. She smiled. And now we get to build something new. This wasn't restoration of the past. It was multiplication of grace. They had lost their old love story, but they had written a stronger one. And this time, she remembered every moment.